From Up on Poppy Hill is a 2011 Japanese animated drama film directed by Gorō Miyazaki, scripted by Hayao Miyazaki and Keiko Niwa, and produced by Studio Ghibli. It is based on the 1980 serialized Japanese comic of the same name illustrated by Chizuru Takahashi and written by Tetsurō Sayama. The film stars the voices of Masami Nagasawa, Junichi Okada, Keiko Takeshita, Yuriko Ishida, Jun Fubuki, Takashi Naito, Shunsuke Kazama, now Omori and Teruyuki Kagawa. Set in 1963 Yokohama, Japan, the film tells the story of Umi Matsuzaki, a high school girl living in a boarding house, Coquelicot Manor. When Umi meets Shun Kazama, a member of the school's newspaper club, they decide to clean up the school's clubhouse, Quartier Latin. However, Tokumaru, the chairman of the local high school and a businessman, intends to demolish the building for redevelopment, and Umi and Shun, along with Shirō Mizunuma, must persuade him to reconsider. From Up on Poppy Hill premiered on July 16, 2011 in Japan. The film received positive reviews from most film critics and grossed $61 million worldwide. An English version of the film was distributed by GKIDS. It was released to theaters on March 15, 2013 in North America. Plot: Umi Matsuzaki is a 16-year-old student at Isoko High School living in Coquelicot Manor, a boarding house overlooking the port of Yokohama in Japan. Her mother Ryoko is a medical professor studying abroad in the United States. Umi runs the house and looks after her younger siblings Sora and Riku and her grandmother, Hana. College students Achiko Hyorokaji and doctor-in-training Miki Hokito also live there. Each morning, Umi raises a set of signal flags with the message "I pray for safe voyages." One day, a poem about the flags being raised by a local girl is published in the school newspaper. Shun Kazama, the poem's author and a member of the journalism club, witnesses the flags from sea as he rides a tugboat to school. At school, Umi meets Shun when he participates in a daredevil stunt for the newspaper, leaving Umi with a negative first impression. Umi later accompanies Sora to obtain Shun's autograph at the Quartier Latin, an old and dilapidated building housing the high school's clubs. Umi learns that Shun publishes the school newspaper, along with Shirō Mizunuma, the school's student government president. She ends up helping on the newspaper. Later, Shun convinces the other students to renovate the building after a debate on the future of the Quartier Latin, which may be demolished. At Yumi's suggestion, the female student body cooperates with the other students. Back at Coquelicot Manor, Umi shows Shun a photograph of 3 young naval men. One of these men is her deceased father Yaikira Sawamura, who was killed in the Korean War. Shun is stunned to see the photograph. At home that night, he opens a notebook to reveal he has a duplicate of Yumi's photograph. He questions his father, who reveals that Yaikira arrived at their house one evening with a young Shun, shortly after the end of World War II. The Kazamas had recently lost their infant, so they adopted Shun. Upon discovering that he is avoiding her, Umi eventually confronts Shun, who reveals they may be siblings. Having checked the city records, Shun discovers that both their names are in the Sawamura family registry. Umi is able to hide her feelings from Shun, and they continue as friends. When the renovation of the Quartier Latin is complete, the Kanagawa Prefectural Board of Education decides to proceed with the building's demolition. The students nominate Shun, Umi, and Shira to visit Tokyo and meet with Tokumaru, a businessman and the school board's chairman. The trio travels through the city, which is in preparation for the 1964 Summer Olympics, and successfully convince Tokumaru to visit the Quartier Latin. As Shira leaves the group, Umi professes her love to Shun, and he reciprocates her feelings in spite of their situation. After she returns home, Umi discovers that her mother has returned. Ryoko reveals that Shun's father was Hiroshi Tachibana, the second man in the photograph. In 1945, Tachibana was killed in an accident on a repatriation ship. Shun's mother died in childbirth, and his other relatives were killed in the atomic bombing of Nagasaki. However, Ryoko was unable to raise Shun, as she was pregnant with Umi during her time as a medical student. Kira registered the child as his own to avoid leaving Shun as an orphan in the confused post-war years, but Shun was eventually given to a local couple, the Kazamas. Umi, however, still has concerns. Tokumaru later visits the Quartier Latin and, impressed by the students' efforts in renovating the building, he decides to abandon the demolition. Umi and Shun are soon summoned to the harbor. They meet Yoshio Onodera, now a ship's captain, who was the third man in the photograph, and the sole survivor of the three. Confirming that Umi and Shun are not related by blood, Onodera tells the full story of the three naval men in the previous era. With everything resolved, Umi returns to Coquelicot Manor and resumes her daily routine of raising the flags, but without the answering flag. Cast: Masami Nagasawa as Umi Matsuzaki, the oldest daughter of a family that runs a lodging house. Young Umi, in flashbacks, is voiced by Oi Watanabe, and both versions of the character are voiced by Sarah Bogger in the English-language version. Junichi Okada as Shun Kazama, the school newspaper president whom Umi takes an interest in Shun, is voiced by Anton Yelchin in the English-language version. Okada also provides the uncredited voice of Yukiro Sawamura, Umi Matsuzaki's deceased father. Keiko Takeshita as Hana Matsuzaki, Yumi's maternal grandmother and owner of boarding house. Hana is voiced by Gillian Anderson in the English-language version. Jun Fubuki as Ryoko Matsuzaki, Yumi's mother and a researcher at a university in the United States. Ryoko is voiced by Jamie Lee Curtis in the English-language version. Yuriko Ishida as Miki Hokito, a doctor in training staying at Coquelicot's apartment. Miki is voiced by Christina Hendricks in the English-language version. Now Omori is Hayao Kazama, Shun's adoptive father. Hayao is voiced by Chris Noth in the English-language version. Takashi Naito as Yoshio Onodera, a ship captain and an old friend of Umi and Shun's parents. Onodera is voiced by Bruce Deeren in the English-language version. Shunsuke Kazama as Shirō Mizunuma, the student council president and Shun's friend. Shira is voiced by Charlie Saxton in the English-language version. Kazama also provides the uncredited voice of Hiroshi Tachibana, Shun Kazama's deceased father. Teruyuki Kagawa as Chief Director Tokumaru, the chairman of the high school and a businessman living in Tokyo. He is based on Tokuma Shoten President Yasuyoshi Tokuma. Tokumaru is voiced by Beau Bridges in the English-language version. The cast also includes Haruka Shiraishi as Sora Matsuzaki and Tsubasa Kobayashi as Riku Matsuzaki, Yumi's younger siblings. Sora is voiced by Isabelle Fuman and Riku is voiced by Alex Wolff and Raymond Ochoa in the English-language version. Rumi Hayaraji provides the voice of Sachiko Hayarakuji, an art college student staying at Coquelicot's apartment. Aubrey Plaza voices Hayarakuji in the English-language version. Eiko Kanazawa provides the voice of Sori Makamura, a boarder at Coquelicot's house. Elisa Gabrieli voices Makamura in the English-language version. Toshimi Kano and Oi Teshima voice Nobuko and Yuko respectively, Yumi's friends and classmates. Emily Osment voices Nobuko and Bridget Hoffman voices Yuko respectively in the English-language version. Director Gorō Miyazaki provides the voice of Isogo High School's world history teacher while an English version world history teacher is voiced by Ronan Farrow. Jeff Dunham voices Jen in the English-language version. Ron Howard voices Philosophy Club's president in the English-language version. Historical basis. In the film, Yumi's father was killed when his supply ship was sunk by mines in the Korean War, and Shun's biological father died aboard a repatriation vessel after the end of the Second World War. Following Japan's defeat in the Second World War, the Supreme Commander Allied powers assumed control over the Japanese merchant marine to return repatriates to their homelands. At the start of the Korean War, those ships, together with their Japanese crews, were pressed into service by the U.S. military to carry forces and supplies to Korea. Japanese vessels played a significant role at the Incheon and Wonsan landings. The shipping firm Tozai Kisen was among the most prominent firms involved, concluding an agreement with the U.S. military Unregistered Trademark S Japan Logistical Command to provide 122 small vessels and around 1,300 crew for transport and landing work. Japanese workers were being recruited both via the Japanese governmental Unregistered Trademark S official procurements program and through companies like Tozai Kisen to unload supplies, repair equipment and carry out other military support duties for UN-US bases in Korea during the war. These workers were confined either within the bases or on Japanese cargo vessels which had been specially modified for use as floating barracks and were moored in Korean ports. An article published by the Asahi Shimbun in January 1953 reported that there were thought to be about 1,000 Japanese labor recruits still engaged in this work in Korea at that time. According to an estimate by Japan Unregistered Trademark S Special Procurement Agency, 56 Japanese sailors and laborers were killed in the Korean War zone in the first 6 months of the war alone. 23 of the deaths occurred when Japanese crewed ships were sunk by mines. No official estimate of the total number of Japanese killed in the Korean War has ever been published. Indeed, there has never been official recognition by the U.S. or Japanese governments of the role of Japanese in the war zone. The 1960s saw an escalating increase in student activism and campus revolts in Japan as well as in other parts of the world. Production. From Up on Poppy Hill was officially revealed as the new Studio Ghibli film for 2011 on December 15, 2010. This film is based on the 1980s shoujo manga of the same name by Tetsurō Sayama and Chizuru Takahashi. It was also revealed that director Gorō Miyazaki would be directing the film. Gorō Miyazaki is the eldest son of Studio Ghibli's co-founder and acclaimed director Hayao Miyazaki, and had made his directorial debut in the 2006 film Tales from Earthsea. From Up on Poppy Hill is his second work. The film is a co-production by its animation studio Studio Ghibli, Nippon Television, Dentsu, Hokuada DY Media Partners, home video distributor Walt Disney Pictures, Mitsubishi Corporation and theatrical distributor Toho. In a press interview given after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, it was announced the film's production was affected by the rolling blackouts imposed after this disaster. In particular, the animation process was forced to proceed in the night to minimize disruptions. When pressed about the progress of the film, it was revealed that the film's animation was about 50% completed, though it was also added that the animation would have otherwise been over 70% completed without the disaster. However, Hayao Miyazaki assured the public that the film would still be released on July 16, 2011, as previously announced, saying that it was their responsibility to do so. Gorō Miyazaki stated that while most of the staff was not affected by the disaster, there were several who did go through a period of mental affectedness because of what happened and that took some time to recover from. Gorō Miyazaki initially researched Yokohama, intending to be faithful to the city's historical details. However, after realizing that simply reenacting something of the time may seem real enough but may not necessarily be beautiful, Miyazaki decided to show the location as shimmering and bustling with life from the viewpoint of the characters. In designing the Quartier Latin, Miyazaki worked with the art directors who added ideas about the amalgamation of clutter in the Housea Unregistered Trademark S many rooms, and attempted to look at the architecture of the building, but to also remember back to my college years and the clutter and filthiness that Miyazaki lived through. Animation. A film's animation directors are Akihiko Yamashita, Atsushi Yamagata and Keitaro Kasaka, and its most known key animators include Makiko Futaki, Shinji Oetsuka, Takeshi Honda, Takashi Hashimoto, Hideki Hamesu, Atsuko Tanaka, The Secret World of Ariete director Hayamasa Yonebayashi and Hiroyuki Aoyama. Voice acting. The main voice cast members were officially unveiled on May 13, 2011. It was announced that actress Masami Nagasawa would voice Matsuzaki, the film's main high school character. This was Nagasawa's first voice acting role in a Studio Ghibli film. In addition, Junichi Okada, a member of the Japanese band V6, would be voicing Shun Kazama, who is a member of the school newspaper publishing team. Additionally, Jun Fubuki, Keiko Takeshita, Takashi Naito, Teruyuki Kagawa, Yuriko Ishida, now Omori and Shunsuke Kazama would voice other minor characters in the film. In June 2012, it was announced that a North American dub would be recorded and that it was being executive produced by Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall, written by Carrie Kirkpatrick and directed by Gary Rydstrom. The cast members of the dub include Sarah Bogger, Anton Yelchin, Ron Howard, Jeff Dunham, Gillian Anderson, Chris Noth, Ronan Farrow, Isabel Fuhrman, Emily Osment, Charlie Saxton, Alex Wolff, Beau Bridges, Jamie Lee Curtis, Bruce Dillon, Christina Hendricks, Eliza Gabrieli and Aubrey Plaza. Music. The film score of From Up on Poppy Hill was composed by Satoshi Tape. In December 2010, it was announced that singer Oi Teshima would sing the film's theme song, Summer of Farewells, From Up on Poppy Hill. The 1961 song I Shall Walk Looking Up, better known in English-speaking countries as Sukiyaki, and performed by Kaya Sakamoto, is included in this film as one of its insert songs. The instrumental version of this song was later released in the United States under the title of Sukiyaki by musician Kenny Ball. This song was chosen for the film because From Up on Poppy Hill is set in the year 1963, the same year that this song debuted and became a hit in America. Soundtrack. The soundtrack album was released by Tokumaru Japan Communications on July 13, 2011. It contains the film's score to From Up on Poppy Hill, as well as 6 insert songs and the film's theme song. All music composed by Satoshi Tape, except as noted. Release. From Up on Poppy Hill was released in Japanese cinemas on July 16, 2011. It debuted at third placing in the Japanese box office, behind films Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows A Euro Part 2 and the dual-release poker copyright Mon Anime film Victini and the Black Hero, Zekrom Victini and the White Hero, Reshiram. It managed to gross approximately 587 million yen and attracted around 450,000 viewers. Furthermore, an art exhibition, entitled The Art of From Up on Poppy Hill was held to coincide with the film's release. This exhibition featured more than 130 art and storyboards used in the making of this film, and it was held from 23 to July 28, 2011 in the Sabuikabukuro main store in Tokyo. The exhibition was later moved to Sogo's Yokohama branch store from 10 to August 15, 2011. The movie was released in France on January 11, 2012 as La Colline aux Coquelicots by Walt Disney Pictures. It gathered over 287,281 viewers in its 4 weeks of exhibition, far more than Tales from Earthsea. On August 17, 2011, it was announced the film From Up on Poppy Hill would be one of the Japanese films being showcased at the 2011 Toronto International Film Festival, which was held from 8 to September 18, 2011. It was also revealed that the film would be showcased in the Japan International Premiere section, which is part of the Contemporary World Cinema event in the festival. The film received a limited theatrical release in North America on March 15, 2013. An English dub was recorded for this release, directed by Gary Rydstrom and produced by the Kennedy Marshall Company, who also oversaw the English dubs for Ponyo and The Secret World of Arrietty. The release was licensed by Studio Ghibli to GKIDS, which marked the first time a Studio Ghibli film was not distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures in North America since the 1999 North American release of Princess Mononoke by then Disney-owned Miramax Films. Reception. Box office. During the survey period between July 18, 2011, Bunkatsushin.com reported From Up on Poppy Hill had grossed over 587,337,400 yen at the box office. During these 3 days, over 445,000 people watched this film. In a survey which was done online and on mobile platforms, it was revealed the ratio of female audience to male audience was 57% to 43%. By age, 34.8% of the audience were in their 20s, 18.9% of them were aged between 16 and 19 years old, and people who were aged over 30 made up 32.6% of the audience. This film crossed the 3 billion yen gross mark during the weekend of 21 Euro August 22, 2011. From Up on Poppy Hill earned $1,002,895 in North America and $60,456,530 in other territories for a worldwide total of $61,459,425. It is the 14th highest grossing anime film. Between Grave of the Fireflies, Only Yesterday, Ocean Waves, Whisper of the Heart and My Neighbors the Yamadas, From Up on Poppy Hill is the highest-grossing Ghibli film about specializing in Japanese local customs, Behind the Wind Rises, and its seventh best-grossing one of the Ghibli films in United States. In France, the film was well received by the public. It gathered over 287,281 viewers in its 4 weeks of exhibition, far more than Tales from Earthsea. Critical reception: From Up on Poppy Hill received generally positive reviews from film critics. Rotten Tomatoes sampled 83 reviews and judged 83% of them to be positive, and the consensus, gentle and nostalgic. From Up on Poppy Hill is one of Studio Ghibli's sweeter efforts Seguro, and if it doesn't push the boundaries of the genre, it remains as engagingly lovely as Ghibli fans have come to expect. Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score, rated the film 71 out of 100 based on 20 reviews. Mark Schilling of the Japan Times described From Up on Poppy Hill as a pure-hearted, melodramatic youth film. The reviewer criticized the story as predictable, and called the film's direction pedestrian. However, he concluded the review by praising the film, saying a wealth of period detail brings the era to nostalgic realistic life. Takashi Kondo of the Daily Yomiuri said that the film is filled with many experiences that have been lost in our daily life. Kondo also said that the father-son joint production, of Hayao and Gorō Miyazaki achieved a wonderful result, and Kokuriko-zaka Kara is a work that needs to be seen in this day and age. A.O. Scott of the New York Times praised From Up on Poppy Hill for its visuals as well as its characterization. Although Scott said that the specific tragedy that lies in the background may not register with children, he would say that adults are likely to be charmed by the love story and enchanted by the delicate rendering of a bygone but not entirely forgotten era. Kenneth Turan of the Los Angeles Times called the film a time machine dream of a not-so-distant past, a sweet and honestly sentimental story that also represents a collaboration between the greatest of Japanese animators and his up-and-coming son. Turan also said that Latin Quarter is Poppy Hill it is most fantastical. On the characterizations, Turan stated, the respect and politeness with which all the characters, even the teenage protagonists, treat one another is a far cry from what can go on in this day and age. In France, the film was favorably received by the press, although the script and animation were judged to be slightly lacking by some. Accolades: see also, Kokuriko-zaka Kara, Post-Occupation Japan, Japan, Our Homeland, My Miracle, and Only Yesterday. References. External links: a cubed AA florin, cubed AAA per mil, a euro a 1/4 a micro, a florin. Official website, From Up on Poppy Hill at Anime News Network's Encyclopedia, BD Review. From Up on Poppy Hill at the Internet Movie Database, From Up on Poppy Hill at the Big Cartoon Database, From Up on Poppy Hill at Box Office Mojo, From Up on Poppy Hill at Rotten Tomatoes, From Up on Poppy Hill at Metacritic. Wiki information.